in the kind of one step forward, one step back manner that has now come to characterize, if not define, the Biden administration. Biden says that he wants regime change in Russia, and then the White House clarifies that he doesn't. So this all started when Biden was giving a talk to some of the troops, and he says that Putin, quote, cannot remain in power, end quote. So the implication could not have been more clear that it's going to be part of U.S. policy to get Putin out. Now, let's remember that this is actually consistent with things that, for example, Lindsey Graham said several weeks ago, when Graham, in effect, said, listen, why isn't there somebody who's going to sort of rise up? And now in Graham's case, he was talking about somebody in Russia. But Biden's implication was somehow that it would be a strategy of the United States to be working, perhaps with other generals, other figures in Russia, to oust Putin from power. Now, needless to say, this is a very dangerous and provocative thing to be saying from the leader of America to a nuclear-tipped adversary. If Putin were to think that his own existence in power and probably his own life were somehow jeopardized by what the U.S. is plotting against him, think about how he might react to that. So the United States, I think, it's completely one thing to say, all right, we're going to try to have regime change in Iraq. We're going to get rid of Saddam Hussein. And of course, under Bush, we did. Or that we're going to have regime change in Libya, as we did under Obama, and we're going to get rid of Gaddafi, and that did happen. But it's a whole different matter to say this about the Soviet Union, just as it would be a whole different matter to say this about China. So here's an unbelievably reckless and irresponsible statement by Biden. And the White House, however, instead of talking to Biden and having Biden go out himself and clarify. And clarify here, let's be clear what we mean by this. Clarify doesn't mean that Biden said something he didn't mean. He actually did mean it. It's very clear from the original remark that Biden doesn't think that Putin should be the ruler of Russia. But it's almost as if when the White House comes out right after that and goes, no, that's really not what he meant. And then here's Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, walking back the remarks, quote, we do not have a strategy for regime change in Russia. So this is like Biden says A, and then Blinken says not A. And this is another way of saying, I think, that Biden's not really in charge. Biden says what he thinks, and then the rest of them tell him, that's not what you think. Meaning they're the ones deciding. And think about it, who's the they? The ones deciding haven't gotten one vote from the American people. These are appointees. And yet they very clearly are driving Biden and not the other way around. So Putin continues to execute his plan in the Ukraine. And look, to me, the kind of interesting conclusion from all this is that here you have Putin. He wants regime change in Ukraine. And then you have Biden. He wants and then doesn't want, but maybe secretly wants regime change in Russia. And the question I want to leave you with is, what about regime change in America? I think all of us, in fact, a majority of the American people, according to most polls, would like to see Biden out of there. They don't really believe he's doing a good job either on foreign policy or on the economy. Now, we're obviously not talking about, we're talking about lawful electoral regime change brought about through the democratic process. But I think that's the kind of regime change that I and probably you and most certainly most Americans are wishing for.